Hey! Hey, Natalie! How are you? All right, so we had a bit of a mishap, and Frank can't be here with me tonight. Pipe busted in the kitchen. So you got me. Hopefully I got this. Hey, Carl, how are you? So tonight I am going to talk about the JFK assassination. Oh, it's okay. No worries. I totally understand. Honestly, if this wasn't something so important in my family, I probably would have delayed it. Hey, Ange! You're not invisible. Hey, Stephen P. Kitty Cat. Great show, by the way. I loved it. I was a little ADHD, trying to, but I loved it. And Frank did too. All right, so we all know today is the 58th anniversary of the JFK assassination. It is also a big day in my family. It is the day that my grandfather became an American citizen. And it is his 58th anniversary of being an American citizen. So I do want to say congratulations to my grandpa for that. I guess I'll start off with a little story about that, actually. Hi, Carl! So, on the day that Kennedy was assassinated, my grandfather was swearing in, and he was becoming an American citizen. And everybody was lined up. They all swore in. They did their thing. I'm not sure of the process, only because I haven't personally been through it. Thank you, Ange. And so he told me that they were swearing in and doing, they had just gotten everybody standing there. The judge is talking to him, and somebody walked up to the judge and whispered in his ear. Well, apparently, at that moment, the judge went just ghost white and took a moment to compose himself. And he said, "Congratulations. You are all American citizens. Now, please go home, watch the news. The president has been shot." So my grandfather and my grandmother went to a diner, and they were trying to celebrate. But it was obviously very difficult to do so. They did watch, I guess the diner itself had the news on TV. And at that moment, the news wasn't saying that the president was dead. What the news was saying was simply that the president had been shot. Hey, Jeannie. Also, hey, Calvin. I didn't say hi. But yeah, at this moment, the news was only reporting that the president had been shot. They were not saying he was dead. I mean, in retrospect, we all can see, we've seen the picture, the horrifying picture of Jackie O trying to scoop his brains and skull back together. She was just in complete shock, trying to just hold it together. Yeah. They did announce that he was dead at the hospital, and Lyndon Johnson was actually sworn in at the hospital. So, I'm going to start off with some information that you may or may not already know. This might be a long show, guys, just to let you know. But let's start off with John F. Kennedy was the 35th president of the United States. He was assassinated on Friday, November 22nd of 1963 at 12:30 p.m. in Dallas, Texas, while riding in a presidential motorcade through Dealey Plaza. Kennedy was riding with his wife, Jackie O, and the Texas governor, John Connally, and Connally's wife, Nellie, when he was fatally shot from a nearby building, or so they say, by Lee Harvey Oswald, who was a former Marine. Governor Connally was seriously wounded in the attack. The motorcade rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where Kennedy was pronounced dead about 30 minutes after the shooting. But they did not announce that for a while to the public. The Dallas Police Department arrested Oswald 70 minutes after the initial shooting. Oswald was charged under Texas state law with the murder of Kennedy and that of J.T. Tippit, a Dallas police officer. At 11:21 a.m. on November 24th, 1963, as live television cameras were covering his transfer from the city jail to the county jail, Oswald was fatally shot in the basement of the Dallas Police Headquarters, and it was then called the Dallas Municipal Building, by the Dallas nightclub operator Jack Ruby. Oswald was taken to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where he died, or was pronounced dead. Ruby was convicted of Oswald's murder, though it was later overturned on an appeal. Ruby did die in prison in 1967 while waiting a new trial. Jeannie says, I am from around Dallas area, the other side of Terrell, Texas. Okay. And Parkland has totally changed from what it used to be. Yes, President Lincoln was also shot at a theater. Yes, he was. And I am going to get into some of those weird details, the connections between the two. So, after a 10-month investigation, the Warren Commission concluded that Oswald assassinated Kennedy, and that Oswald had acted entirely alone, and that Ruby had acted alone on killing Oswald. Kennedy was the 8th and most recent president in the United States to die in office, and the 4th to be assassinated. The other 3 were Lincoln, Garfield, and McKinley. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson automatically became president upon Kennedy's death. In its 1979 report, the United States House Select Committee on Assassinations agreed with the Warren Commission that Oswald's 3 rifle shots caused the injuries that Kennedy and Connally sustained. After analysis of a dictabel audio recording, the House Select Committee of Assassinations concluded that Kennedy was likely assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. The committee could not identify a second gunman or a group involved in the possible conspiracy, although the HSCA concluded that the analysis pointed to the existence of an additional gunshot and a high probability that 2 gunmen fired at the president. That really sounds like jumbles, right? Oh no, I'm sorry. They don't want you to hear this. He was not. He was, I actually have a picture that I thought I uploaded, but it was Johnson being sworn in. In fact, let's do this. So, You are right. Sorry, I was wrong. It was to save him from being assassinated. That part I was totally wrong. Because they believed that he would probably be next, the next target. So, here you go. That's him actually getting sworn in. Oh, look at Jackie. It's heartbreaking. Hey, Joey, what's up? All right, so let me get back over to this and I'll look at some more comments in just a little bit. So, the U.S. Justice Department concluded active investigations and stated that no persuasive evidence can be identified to support the theory of a conspiracy in the assassination. However, the assassination is still subject of a debate, and it spawned a lot of theories and alternate scenarios, which I will talk about a few of them. But let's get into some of the comparisons, the odd parallels between Kennedy and Lincoln. So this one's interesting to me. And Natalie, you did hear this one last night. Yes, we do, right? All right. So let me get back over here. So both presidents, we're talking about Kennedy and Lincoln right now. Both presidents were shot in the back of the head on a Friday before a major holiday while seated beside their wives, neither of whom were injured. Both were in the presence of another couple, and in each case, the man of the couple was also wounded by the assassin. After both assassinations, there were loud and insistent claims that the fatal shot must have come from different directions. Each president in his 30s married a socially prominent 24-year-old woman that spoke French fluently. While in the White House, each president had a family of 3 children, and both lost a child through death. Both Lincoln and Kennedy were second children. Both had been boat captains. Both were related to a U.S. senator, attorney general, ambassador to Great Britain, and the mayor of Boston. Each of them had been elected to Congress in the year of 47 and were each vice presidential runners-up in the year of 56. Each was elected in 60. And before each was elected, a sister died. Both had a friend named Billy Graham and knew somebody named Adlai Stevenson. President Kennedy had a secretary with the last name Lincoln, and President Lincoln had a secretary with the last name Kennedy. Both were succeeded by vice presidents named Johnson. Andrew Johnson was born in 1808, and Lyndon Johnson was born in 1908, both of whom had 13 letters in their names and 2 daughters. Both assassins were known by all 3 of their names and had 15 letters in their names. Booth shot Lincoln in a theater and fled to a warehouse, while Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and fled to a theater. Both assassins were in their turn assassinated by shooters who used a Colt revolver and fired only 1 fatal shot. Yeah. It's interesting. I always find this one interesting. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The comparison that they're douche canoes. If you miss anything, I'll be annoying. Both were Southerners. Yep. That is correct. So I wanted to touch base on something. So, yeah, the numerology is kind of... I kind of wanted to touch base on something. You know how it said, they concluded that it was definitely Oswald. There is a theory, because even in my notes, I found it saying that they heard there was definitely a distinct second gunshot from another location. Oh, I'm getting to the lady. Oh, I am. But one of the things I wanted to mention, it really does seem like Kennedy might have been shot by one of our guys, by one of the people that was supposed to be protecting him. Think about that. Think about the direction that the shot looks like it came from. Think about the direction in which this is horrible, but in which his head exploded. You know what I forgot to do, though, guys? Give me a second here. Just to let you guys know, under the fair use, another author may make limited use of the original author's work without asking permission. Pursuant to 17 U.S. Code 107, certain uses of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, including multiple copies for classroom use, scholarship, or research is not an infringement on copyright. So take that, Facebook. Yes, I'm going to get to her. I'm getting to the babushka lady. So, here we go. Kennedy's open-top 1961 Lincoln Continental 4-door convertible limousine entered Dealey Plaza at 12:30 p.m. Nellie Conley, the First Lady of Texas, turned to Kennedy, who was sitting behind her, and commented, "Mr. President, you can't say Dallas doesn't love you." Kennedy's reply, "No, you certainly can't." And those were his last words. From Houston Street, the limousine made the planned left turn onto Elm to provide access to the Simmons Freeway exit. As it turned, it passed by the Texas School Book Depository. And as it continued down Elm Street, shots were fired. 80% of the witnesses recalled hearing 3 shots. A Mannlicher Carcano rifle and 3 shell casings were also found near an open window on the book depository's 6th floor. Shortly after Kennedy began waving, a few witnesses recognized the first gunshot for what it was. But there was little reaction from the crowd or those riding in the motorcade. Many later said they imagined what they heard to be a firecracker or backfire from a vehicle. The Warren Commission, based on the Zapruder film, found that the limousine had traveled an average speed of 11.2 miles per hour over the 186 feet of Elm Street, immediately preceding the fatal headshot. Texas School Depository employee Bonnie Ray Williams testified that he recognized Oswald as someone whom he saw on the 6th floor twice before the assassination took place. Yeah. So, yes, one of the first action rounds ever with the M16. Oh, yeah. The second one was, yep. Exactly. So, within 1 second of each other, Governor Conley and Mrs. Kennedy turn abruptly from looking to their left to looking to their right, beginning at Zapruder film frame 162. Conley, like Kennedy, was a World War II military veteran and was a longtime hunter. He testified that he immediately recognized the sound as that of a high-powered rifle and turned his head and torso right to see Kennedy behind him. He testified that he could not see Kennedy, so he then started to turn forward again, turning from his right to his left. And that is when his head, and that when his head was facing at about 20 degrees left of center, he was hit in the upper right back by a bullet that he did not hear fired. The doctor who operated on Conley estimated that his head at the time that it was hit, had been at a 27 degrees left of center. So after Conley was hit, he shouted, "Oh, no, no, no. My God, they're going to kill us all." Sorry, this is pretty brutal, guys. Especially if you've watched the video. Mrs. Conley testified that just after hearing a loud, frightening noise that came from somewhere behind her and to her right, she turned toward Kennedy and saw him raise up his arms and elbows with his hands in front of his face and throat. She then heard another shot, and then Governor Conley was yelling. Mrs. Conley then turned away from Kennedy towards her husband, at which point another gunshot sounded, and both she and the limousine's rear interior were then covered with fragments of skull and blood and brain. This is that brutal, brutal moment where you can see, where you can actually see her. Here we go. Everyone said that Jackie O was trying to get out of the car there. She was not. Yeah, I would have been looking for something in the floorboard. Yeah, definitely. Oh, look, what is that? So let's go back over to this. According to the Warren Commission, the House Select Committee on Assassinations, Kennedy was waving to the crowds on his right with his right arm raised up on the side of the limo when a shot entered his upper back, penetrated his neck, and slightly damaged a spinal vertebra and the top of his right lung. The bullet exited his throat nearly centerline beneath his larynx and nicked the left side of his suit tie knot. He raised his elbows and clenched his fists in front of his face and neck, then leaned forward and left. Mrs. Kennedy, facing him, then put her arms around him in concern. According to the Warren Commission single bullet theory, Governor Conley also reacted after the same bullet penetrated his back just below his right armpit. The bullet created an oval-shaped entry wound, impacted and destroyed 4 inches of his right fifth rib, and exited his chest right below his right nipple. This created a 2.5-inch oval-shaped air-sucking chest wound. The same bullet then entered his arm just above his right wrist and cleanly shattered his right radius bone into 8 pieces. The bullet exited just below the wrist at the inner side of his right palm, finally lodged itself in his inner thigh, left thigh. Does this sound weird to you to say, yeah, one bullet went through everybody and just flew everywhere? Just thought. She was getting the SS dude into the car. Hey, Joshua! Yeah. Yeah, it just... something doesn't seem right, does it? So, the Warren Commission theorized that the single bullet struck sometime between the Zapruder frames of 210 or 225, while the House Select Committee theorized that it struck approximately around frame 190. According to the Warren Commission, the second shot that struck Kennedy was recorded at frame 313. The commission made no conclusion as to whether this was the second or third bullet fired. The limousine then passed in front of the John Neely Bryan North Pergola concrete structure. The 2 investigative committees concluded that the second shot to hit Kennedy entered the rear of his head. The House Select Committee placed the entry 4 inches higher than the Warren Commission placed it, but the results were still the same. His head exploded. Fragments from his skull went everywhere, and it created a large, roughly oval or ovular hole in the rear right side of his head. Kennedy's blood and fragments of his scalp, brain, and skull landed on the interior of the car, the inner and outer surfaces of the front glass of the windshield, the raised sun visors, the front engine hood, the rear trunk lid. His blood and fragments also landed on the Secret Service follow-up car and its driver's left arm, as well as on the motorcycle officers who were riding on both sides of Kennedy behind his vehicle. Secret Service Special Agent Clint Hill was riding on the left front running board of the follow-up car, which was immediately behind Kennedy's limousine. He testified that he heard only one shot, then, as documented in other films and concurrent with the Zapruder Frame 308, he jumped off onto Elm Street, ran towards the board of the trunk of the limousine to protect Kennedy. He testified to the Warren Commission that he heard the fatal headshot as he was reaching the limousine, approximately 5 seconds after that first shot. After Kennedy was shot, Mrs. Kennedy began climbing out of the limousine. And she has no recollection of actually doing this. I saw videos of her trying to gather his skull. How absolutely horrifying must that have been? So apparently, Hill believed that she was reaching for something, perhaps a piece of Kennedy's skull. He jumped into the back of the limousine while at the same time Mrs. Kennedy returned to her seat. He clung to the car as it exited Dealey Plaza and accelerated, speeding to Parkland Memorial Hospital. After Mrs. Kennedy crawled back into her limousine seat, both the governor and Mrs. Conley heard her repeatedly say, "They've killed my husband. I have his brains in my hand." All the ride to the hospital, she said, all the ride to the hospital, I kept bending over him saying, "Jack, Jack, can you hear me? I love you. Jack." I kept holding the top of his head down, trying to keep his brains in. Yeah, Secret Service. What's up, Jake? So there it is right there. There's the statement. Jackie said it herself. I was holding his head together, trying to keep his brains in. Can you even imagine? And I'm not even talking about conspiracies yet. I'm just stating the stuff that is on record. So, let me get here. I lost half my notes, by the way. Okay, so let's get into this. Many conspiracy theories posit that the assassination involved people or organizations in addition to Lee Harvey Oswald. Most current theories put forth a criminal conspiracy involving parties as varied as the FBI, the CIA, the mafia, the U.S. military, even the vice president, because he wanted to become president. Fidel Castro, KGB, even a combination of these entities. Public opinion polls have consistently shown that the majority of Americans believe that there is a conspiracy with killing Kennedy. I'm probably one of them, to be honest. Gallup polls have also found that only 20 to 30% of the population believe that Oswald had acted alone. These polls also show that there is no agreement on who else could have been involved. Former Los Angeles District Attorney Vincent Bugliosi estimated that a total of 42 groups, 82 assassins, and 114 people have been accused in various Kennedy assassination conspiracies. So, public opinion. According to author John C. McAdams, the greatest and grandest of all conspiracy theories is the Kennedy assassination conspiracy theory. Others have often referred to it as the mother of all conspiracies. The number of books written about the assassination of Kennedy has been estimated to be between 1 and 2,000. And according to Vincent Bugliosi, 95% of those books are pro-conspiracy and anti-Warren Commission. Author David Krajicek describes the Kennedy assassination enthusiasts as people belonging to conspiracy theorists on one side and debunkers on the other. The great amount of controversy surrounding the event has resulted in bitter disputes between those who support the conclusion of the Warren Commission and those who reject it, or are critical of the official explanation, with each side leveling accusations towards the other of naivete, cynicism, selective interpretation of the evidence. Public opinion polls have consistently shown that most Americans believe that there was actually a conspiracy to kill President Kennedy. These same polls also show no agreement on who it might have been. A 2003 Gallup poll reported that 75% of Americans do not believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. That same year, an ABC News poll found that 70% of the respondents suspected that the assassination involved more than one person. And in 2009, 76% of the people polled for NBC News said that they believed that the president had been killed as a result of a conspiracy. A 2013 Gallup poll found that 61% of Americans, the lowest figure in nearly 50 years, believed that more people than Oswald were involved. Let me get over here to notes. That's what I keep saying. It doesn't make sense that he would have. It just doesn't make sense. The trajectory of everything just doesn't completely make sense to me. You know, they're making the schools take the books out of libraries talking about this and other topics. Yeah. And that's also one of the reasons I decided to talk about it today on the 58th anniversary. Because they don't want us to talk about it anymore. They don't want people to know about these kinds of things. Because it's just not pleasant. I think I am. I have a lot of notes. You know what I'm going to do first, though? I'm going to go to commercial. We'll be right back. If I can find the commercial. Be right back.
This is Mikey from Out of the Ordinary, and you're watching PBDC TV.
Oh, hi. First thing in the morning, when I'm listening to music and getting a little bit of time for some creepy research, I'm always representing with my PBDC merch. What a better way to have a cup of coffee in the morning.
Don't forget to check out our other cool merch at rootsbleedred.com. That's rootsbleedred.com.
This is Professor Edgar Fluffosaurus from Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, and when I'm not hosting Monster Chat or knocking down small Japanese cities, I'm watching PBDC TV. Now back to the show.
All right. So, here we go. Where is my... Did I just lose half of my stuff? Okay, here we go. So I'm going to get into a very popular theory here. One that I kind of believe too. So this would be called... I'm looking at NBC News right now. And this is called the accidental assassin. JFK theory alleges that a Secret Service agent fumbled the gun and returned fire, hitting Kennedy. So many of the most popular Kennedy assassination theories have they seem like a Cold War spy novel. Political intrigue, colorful villains, twists, turns. But one theory has gained traction in the recent years, and it's pretty straightforward. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy was a tragic accident, not the work of a sinister gunman or a conspiracy to topple the King of Camelot. There are no mafia dons or Soviet pawns at the center of the so-called accidental theory. Just an ordinary Secret Service agent with a bad case of butterfingers. Bonner Menninger said, "It's not sexy. It's not rife with intrigue. But for that reason, in my mind, it's extremely compelling because it's the only theory that hews tightly to the available evidence." Menninger is a part of a small but vocal group of theorists who hold that after Lee Harvey Oswald rattled off multiple shots at the motorcade carrying Kennedy past the Texas Schoolhouse Book Depository, a Secret Service agent riding in the car immediately behind the president grabbed his AR-15 and returned fire. But when his car stopped suddenly, this agent, which would be Agent George Hickey, lost his balance and accidentally discharged his weapon, sending a round going through the president's head, which killed him. It was an entirely accidental situation. The agent was attempting to do his job and fucked up. New poll shows that nearly 2 in 3 Americans believe that JFK's death was the product of criminal conspiracy. As the nation remembers Kennedy, the news likes to explore, on the anniversary of his death, news likes to explore a lot of different compelling theories. And that's what I'm doing right now. So, over 20, it would be, nearly 30 years ago now. The theory was laid out. Mortal error. The shot that killed JFK. Menninger actually wrote a book. And this book was on the work of Howard Donahue, a Baltimore firearms expert who in 1967 began probing ballistic and forensic evidence and concluded that Hickey was the elusive second gunman whose friendly fire from street level killed Kennedy. Over nearly a quarter of a century, Donahue reportedly pored over reams of evidence, including the locations, the diameter of the entrance and the exit wounds in Kennedy's skull, the trajectory, the explosive impact of the bullet, and a small handful of testimonies from different witnesses who remember smelling gun smoke near the motorcade. And on nearly all fronts, according to Mettinger, the evidence pointed to Hickey. And it was an accidental inside job. But there are no eyewitnesses that have gone on record claiming to have seen Hickey fire his gun on accident, his rifle. And the Secret Service men denied firing his weapon. None of the 7 other people riding in the follow-up vehicle, which was 2 presidential aides and 5 Secret Service agents, report any bullets whistling past their head. So, what do you guys think? Yeah, knowing your target and controlling your fire helps. That's why that shot sounded so different. The caliber and the location. That is correct. A Dino. No, but what do you guys think? Is that plausible? This is the theory that seems most plausible to me. So, oh gosh, I have like 15 minutes. All right, so let's talk about the babushka lady. This is a woman who nobody has been able to find. The babushka lady is an unknown woman that was present during the assassination of JFK, and she's seen a few times holding a camera. She may have pictures of the events because she was right there. Her nickname is because babushka means grandmother or old woman in Russian, and she's wearing a headscarf in all the pictures that she's seen in. In fact, I have pictures. So here is a really bad picture of the babushka lady. But I'd also like to mention, look at this. Yeah, it's been colorized so you can pay attention to where she is. You notice a lot of people running and she's just, strolling. I've always found that odd. And again, there's babushka. That's when the shots were fired, right there. Motherfucking time traveler. Right? Yeah, I think that there's definitely something that happened that is not what we're being told. Because I'm sorry, but the Warren Commission doesn't seem... The fact that they said, well, there's a single bullet theory. The bullet went through him, out here, over this way, out and around. What the hell? Was this bullet like, wee? Bullets don't do that, guys. But also, they are so adamant that it was just Oswald, and Oswald's dead. He can't say anything now. Joey says, when I was 15, I was on the news when they came to talk to me about the anniversary of this at good old Foothill High. Of course, that's why last century. This was the last century before your interwebs. So absolutely. That and even a sharpshooter like Oswald would be hard-pressed to fire 3 rounds in 6 seconds with a bolt-action rifle. Absolutely. I mean, Oswald was really one of the best marksmen out there. But even, I don't think he could have even done that quickly. Hey, Jeff, how are you? So let me get back over to babushka. So the babushka lady was seen to be holding a camera by eyewitnesses and was also seen in film accounts of the assassination. She was observed standing on the grass between Elm and Main Streets and is visible in the Zapruder film as well as in the films of Orville Nix, Marie Munchmore, and Mark Bell. 44 minutes and 47 seconds into the Bell film, even though the shooting had already taken place and most of her surrounding witnesses took cover, she can be seen still standing with a camera at her face. After the shooting, she crossed Elm Street and joined the crowd that went up the grassy knoll. She is last seen in photographs walking east on Elm Street. Neither she nor the film that she may have taken have ever been positively identified. I'm glad to hear that. Babushka. Yep. So, this is what they're talking about. How people were taking cover. And here she is just doing her thing. She's filming there. People are running and she's strolling. There's her smiling. I don't know why that's so creepy. It just is. Hi, Jeff. Oops. Here we go. So let's talk about Beverly Oliver's claim. In 1970, a woman named Beverly Oliver told conspiracy researcher Gary Shaw at a church revival meeting in Joshua, Texas, that she was the babushka lady. Oliver stated that she filmed the assassination with a Super 8 film, Yashika, and that she turned the undeveloped film over to two men who identified themselves to her as FBI agents. According to Oliver, she obtained no receipt from the men, who told her that they would return the film to her within 10 days. She did not follow up with an inquiry. She reiterated her claims in the 1988 documentary, The Men Who Killed Kennedy. According to Vincent Bugliosi, Oliver has never proven to most people's satisfaction that she was in Dealey Plaza that day. Confronted with the fact that the Yoshikawa Super 8 camera was not made until 1969, she stated that she received the experimental camera from a friend and wasn't even sure the manufacturer's name on it. Beverly Oliver's claims were the basis for the scene in Oliver Stone's 1991 film JFK, in which the character Beverly meets Jim Garrison in a Dallas nightclub, played by Lolita Davidovich. She is depicted in the director's cut as wearing a headscarf in Dealey Plaza and speaking of having given the film she shot to two men claiming to be FBI agents. So the House Select Committee on Assassinations report in March of 1979, the Photographic Evidence Panel of the United States House Select Committee of Assassinations indicated that they were unable to locate any film attributed to the babushka lady. According to the report, initially, Robert Grodin, the photographic consultant to the committee, advised the panel as to pertinent photographic issues and related materials. Committee investigators located many of the suggested films and photographs. However, some items were never located. For example, the babushka lady film, a color photograph by Norman Similis, and the original negative of the Betzner photograph. Lizard lady from Planet Q. Yes, she already knew she'd be caught on camera, and it's a paradox. She's a time traveler. See? Yeah, back then people trusted the government. Thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, Frank couldn't join tonight. We had a pipe bust in the kitchen, and water's everywhere right now. But the show must go on. So public hearings of the Assassination Records Review Board on November 18th, 1994, assassination researcher Gary Mack testified before the Assassination Records Review Board that he had recently been told by an executive in Kodak's Dallas office that a woman in her early 30s with brunette hair brought in film purported to be of the assassination scene while they were processing the Zapruder film. According to Mack, the executive said the woman explained to federal investigators already at the film processing office that she ran from Main Street across the grass of Elm Street where she had stopped and snapped a photo with some people in the foreground of the presidential limousine and the Texas School Book Depository. Max said that he was told by the Kodak executive that the photo was extremely blurry and virtually useless, and indicated that the woman likely went home without anyone recording her identity. After suggesting that the woman in the story may have been the babushka lady, Mac told the board, "I do not believe that Beverly Oliver is the babushka lady." Or, let me rephrase that, she certainly could be, but the rest of the story is a fabrication. Also appearing that same day before the ARRB as Beverly Oliver Masagi, Oliver stated that she was 17 years old at the time of the assassination. She told the board that she was filming an experimental 8mm movie camera approximately 20 to 30 feet from Kennedy when he was shot, and the film was confiscated by a man who identified himself as an FBI agent. According to Oliver, she handed over the camera because the man was an authority figure and because she feared being caught in possession of marijuana. Solved! What do you think? What do you think about the babushka lady? A time traveling camera. Exactly. So, with all these theories, none of them really answer anything. The Kennedy assassination will always be a mystery to everybody. I don't think we're ever going to truly know what happened. Really. I told you, lizard lady from Planet Q. Time traveler, possibly reptilian. Yes. So, I mean, I'm 5 minutes early to leave here, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this tonight. I know I seem to talk fast, and I'm sorry about that. Hopefully you caught everything I was saying. Weren't there papers that were supposed to be declassified in 2017? I know that 2018. In fact, okay, it is a lot to read, but there's a lot of redacted information on it. I can actually put a link up here though, if you guys would like. There you go. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Yeah, see, but they were redacted, so they're completely useless. But I did put the link up here in case you guys want to take a look. So I am also going to say, remember that we are accepting ghost story submissions. If you want to go to psychobunnydc.com or psychomantium.com, we are accepting submissions for ghost stories for a Victorian ghost story episode through December 15th. So please, if you have any great spooky stories, please join in, and we would love to read them. You don't have to sign them. If you want to put them in anonymously, you're free to do so. If you would like to sign them and we can say who it was, you can also do that. Get those ghost stories submitted. Whoop. And yes, now we know. Lizard or reptilian time traveler from Planet Q. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it. This is an important day in my family, and it's always a great subject. It's one that will never be answered, but I'd love to hear what other theories you have. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Have a great night.
I don't know, set the world on fire. I don't know,